All right, Jordan and Molly, welcome to the first and only ever Griffin gardening vlog. Cover some of the basics that I screwed up on or took a year or two to learn indoor plants and or Texas conditions versus a really fertile, water, moisture heavy area. I grew up gardening like the Midwest or I'm sure Seattle area. So one big one. We have water delivered. The water here can get really heavy calcium deposits. It's very hard due to the limestone conditions here versus the really pure water, glacial water in the Midwest I was used to. And so I noticed after year one, even outdoors, big calcium deposits building up in my potted plants. And it was pretty detrimental to the plants. And particularly indoor plants can be sensitive to that. And even just the water coming through Austin's taps, if it has been, softened, it'll have fluoride added to it. And to really clean it, they have to take out a lot of natural minerals that real mineral water has, like iron and things that are good for plants. So get mineral water. It's better for us to drink too than the shitty Austin water. So get the 5-gallon jugs delivered. We talked a little bit about both those plants. So specifically what I'm talking about is there's a few different ways to propagate, but if you see on the other side of the leaves, these are all what could be their own root system. If this was to fall off, that's how the plant basically doesn't have seeds. It just grows off its own plants that get clipped off naturally. So you can cut sections and then re-put them in to thicken up that top. Or you can also start a brand new, both of those from those. So this I did in the fall. This started out as just 5 little leaves I put back in. It's starting to get its own strong root system. Wait until the spring and I'll repot it in a bigger container and it will be twice as big by June or July. But you don't want to repot outside of the spring because the plants are ready to grow aggressively. So you want to keep them in a small container and get that root pack. Second thing we talked about, soil. Don't use the good kind of topsoil. You can feel it when you put your hands in it. The soil we're used to, Jordan, that has that moisture, that black moist soil. Not good here. This is a popular brand, organic natural soil from a California brand called Happy Hog. It's made for tropical plants, or you'll just see like succulent mix labels. That's what you want to use. I'll show you another example here of what I mean when I was saying that you want to not water your plants a lot and then totally saturate them. So this is another vine I love off the pothos. This is called burro's tail or donkey's tail. It's a succulent vine, so it grows very slowly, but along and it'll cascade down. But because it's a succulent, it only grows about 6 to 12 inches a year. So it probably doubled in size after I bought it last year. Thinking next summer I'll see a lot of growth. But this plant in the winter, I only water about once every 4 weeks. Summer maybe 2, because as you can see, the succulent here this is dried out. Here this is water absorbed. The succulent, the leaves themselves absorb and hold a ton of water. I think basically the camel of plants. So you don't want to water them constantly. You want to dry out and see the color variation, particularly at the ends. And when you do water them, so just for my own knowledge, I usually water them in a separate bowl. This is what I remember, because you want to water them, let it sit for about 15 minutes, then dump out all the water and put it back in the position it was. You don't want to let that water sit in there for a day or 2. So just to remind myself, when I water it, I do it in a separate container. You got your watering can, and I'm talking total saturation. Like, so the top is basically flooded, because that's how rain would happen in a natural environment, and it's tropical or desert fringe climates, right? Same for this pothos. I'll water it now too. Because it's so small and the container soil is so little, this one I'm still watering once a week, even though both those in the winter is more like every 2 weeks than once a week in spring and summer months. Take it out of this container. Totally soak it to the brim, let the water run out. Indoor plants, another recommendation, get a little fertilizer once a month. In the winter dormant months, every 2 weeks, just kind of 1 squirt per container. Indoor plants don't get the natural soil regenerating with health. Same with potted plants outside, frankly. So a little bit of fertilizer goes a long way. Finally, to what we discussed root rot a little bit last night. So I made a big mistake. I put this aloe plant out to sunbathe last weekend when it was nice, and then I made the mistake of leaving it out all week and didn't realize it until yesterday. So it was not only cold but soaking wet, and these plants can get really wet in the summer when they can dry out quickly and their roots are ready to grow, but wet and cold, it's pretty much a death sentence. They'll get root rot. So I pulled up the plant. Now you can see it pretty much is already willing to pull away from the dead, but if it had any of the kind of dead or limp roots, as we discussed, I'll cut those off. And the cool thing about succulents is they, again, don't have seeds like plants, trees we're used to, but they basically make themselves so they can move away laterally. So this one I was pulled away with my hands. And this one plant can turn to save it, to bring it back to health and save it from root rot. You can pull it into a bunch of smaller plants with very little root, and then I'll plant it in one of these smaller containers so it gets its health back. And by April, I'll have 4 or 5 new aloe veras instead of the one. These, keep in mind, these are definitely the ones that you want to let dry out for a few days to make sure the root doesn't get any bacteria from the moisture from the root rot. So I will just basically put these on a plate, each individually, and I will essentially let the roots sunbathe for the next few days, and then pot them in those. And as you can see, here's my other aloe that I did this to in the fall, and at this point we got some healthy new, these two I'll repot outside because they're already really huge. Here's another one where basically from one aloe vera plant that was kind of debatably healthy, I'm gonna end up with 4 or 5 healthy plants. So that's the end of my one and only vlog, Griffin's Garden.